Huh? Oh, you're awake now. Oh, good. I was getting a bit worried I would need to call an ambulance or something. I didn't want to leave you alone. Oh, you kind of passed out after well, you touched my cheek and realized that it wasn't practical effects. Look, I'd been telling you, so really, I'm not the one here who's at fault. Sorry. Perhaps we should have this conversation elsewhere? I think that might be best, honestly. Perhaps at my hotel room. I'll answer your questions there, all right? Okay, good. I. I what? Yes, of course I put my mask back on. I didn't want anyone asking questions about it, along with what we were doing in the park so late at night. Well, someone asked, and I just told them that we were on a date looking at the stars. A silly excuse. What? How? That's something romantic that people do. Oh, the light pollution. I didn't think about that. I wasn't looking up at the stars during that encounter. Well, I was looking at you. Is that really odd? You kept staring at me during dinner. It's not that different. We should hurry. This is kind of awkward now. Because, well, It's just, I guess you seem to think that I've started caring for you. Our date had one purpose, and I was trying to get you to answer my questions. Honestly, you act as though I am completely uncaring. I'm a vengeful spirit. I carve a wicked smile into those who are unlucky enough to cross my path. All for revenge. For someone who hurt me years ago. But that doesn't mean I started out like this. I was once... All right, we're here. Yes, I will answer your questions this time around. You want to know who I was? I will tell you at least what I can remember. Just follow me. All right, then. Your questions? What are they? Why didn't I carve into your face? Odd first question, but fair. No one has ever answered my questions by offering to take me out on a date. It was quite a surprise to me, so I was curious. You saw my face, and yet you didn't judge me. And after the incident that caused this, I was told something that was very damaging. So like I said, I was curious. I realized that you believe it was makeup, but I wanted to pretend. My face. It's a long story. I suppose I should start from what I can remember. It was the Heian period. I was once low class, but a man who worked in the court took me in as a maid, and then later as a concubine. I remember being miserable. I'd sit staring at walls, only whispering to my maids as I sat hidden behind a silk screen, because upper-class women of that time could not be seen by others. I spent my time writing poetry. And I recall that his wife taught me. I was young. At first I thought she was jealous, just like anyone else would be. That thought soon faded away, though. She always treated me well. For a while, at least. To explain a bit, polyamory was normal back then, especially with those who are part of the elite. Multiple wives were expected, and extramarital affairs were as well. Men could have multiple wives, however, women could only have one husband. That didn't prevent us from having additional partners as well, though, as long as it wasn't discovered. And considering that we had our own houses, they rarely ever were. As to be expected, though, multiple wives means that each one tends to be a bit jealous of each other. I believed that we weren't enemies. I actually liked her, saw her as an older sister. One day, I went to see her. I had some sort of trouble. No, I was not doing anything wrong at the time. She had been the one to teach me poetry. I always enjoyed writing. It ended the long days of staring out of my window, where I was kept like a bird in a gilded cage. I think I went to ask her something about poetry. I don't remember quite what it was, though. This was so long ago, most of my past memories are just a haze now. Especially the minor details. Anyways, I went into her chambers, and I discovered her in bed with another. She was furious with me. I told her I would keep her secret, that it would die with me. And I kept that promise. She planned it that way. The next week, a young noble who would walk past my window saw me. It started out innocently enough, with small waves, until he began sending me letters. They started out as praise for my beauty. And I remember at first responding to the letter and saying that it was unoriginal, because I'd heard that from many. The next letter, he responded and said that a maid had given him some of my poetry one day as he'd passed by. That should have been a sign. He told me that my true beauty lay in the words that I had written. I believed him. But then he began sending me these beautifully written stories, woven by him about a garden that he'd take me away to. Should my husband ever decide to abandon me. Something that I believed might be happening as the days passed without any sign of my husband. I was just young and naive. I eventually sent him a letter, agreeing. The noble was just a servant, dressed up by the nobleman's wife. She had kept our husband away from me on purpose, to make me worry. These letters were written by her, and I was led right into the hornet's nest. The servant was found in my private room with me. My husband, in a fit of rage, dragged me out into the courtyard and shouted at everyone. Watch. This is what happens to those who cheat. I'm sure you can tell what happened next. As I laid there in pain, no, in shock, he knelt down and asked me, "Who would find someone like you beautiful now?" I died that day. The next thing I know, I'm a vengeful spirit, one that searches for someone who could possibly like this face. If they lie to me and say that they do, well then, doesn't that mean they want a face like mine? True beauty is what's inside. Then doesn't that just mean that I'm hideous no matter how you look at me? I'm a spirit who harms people. Right. So now you know my story. My true story. So what is your next question? Why America? Well, that's a good question. Let's see. Where to start? First of all, it's a different country, and it kind of just seems to be a little bit more scared. You didn't have to wake up quite yet. You fell asleep. I was expecting you to sleep throughout the night this time around. You can go back to sleep. I won't be needing the bed for anything. And it is quite late. Don't worry. I have no plans to harm you, since you keep breaking the rules. Don't worry about what that means. Just rest.